blessed be, witches. I posted on my Instagram about possibly doing a video of that's about tarot or oracle decks. I had anywhere from 40 to 50 DMs asking if I would do kind of like a walkthrough of my decks, because I know that a lot of people do, you know, they do cartomancy in different ways. I do use oracle and tarot. So I decided I would do a 2-part video. Oracle decks kind of give you an overview of what you already feel, because the universe talks to you daily and it gives you a pretty good sense of what's happening around you. So that's what you would use oracle decks for. Tarot gives you a little bit more in-depth information that clarifies a situation. These are my oracle decks, and we will do those first. I'm going to set these up there. Okay, so this is actually my first oracle deck. This is the Hedgewood Botanical Oracle. And this was the first deck that I got to start using. And now I use the aspects of these plants. I use the aspects of these plants when I do ritual work if I don't have that particular plant or herb to represent the aspect. Like, for example, let me get a good one. Get a good one. All right, so say I'm having to change my situation and I'm having to learn to deal with a new situation. That's what Barbieri does. It's for adaptation. And if I don't have blackberry, I mean, I have wild blackberries, but I'm saying if it's out of season and I haven't stored any, or I've already used what I've stored, I will use this in place of the herb or a plant. I will legitimately put it on my altar, incorporate it in my spell work, or what have you, to get the aspects of this plant represented in my work. I will also use these to represent moods. It's a really beautiful oracle deck. And it's really great for beginners. It's not overly confusing, and it gives you what the plant is, its common name and its Latin name, and it tells you kind of like the what's associated with it. It tells you what's associated with it. Why does that keep getting so? I look incredibly white when it does that. Then the next oracle I'm going to do is the Halloween Oracle. Now, it is a relatively new deck to me, and I haven't used it that much, but it comes with this little booklet. I'm just going to pull a couple of these out, and it is a pretty decent sized deck. And if you need a comparison, I don't know, I guess I have normal sized hands for a woman. So, I mean, the card is like legitimately about the size of my whole hand. So there's that. And it does use a lot of skulls and stuff. But it tells you like a Halloween aspect, like a jack-o'-lantern for protection. And then you have the Lady de los Muertos, and that's for acceptance and quality. And then you have invisibility for authenticity. And you have the Hearth, which is for happiness in our hearts and homes. This one is a really good deck. I haven't used this one. I have friends that have been using this deck. They use it to kind of help guide tarot for them. And that's how I use my oracle decks as well, but I don't use this one with my tarot. Like I said, I haven't really used this one yet, and I'm really hoping that I get to soon. But that one is really good to like pull a card to bring a little bit of clarity in your situation, or even you can use those to meditate on, which is another good way to use it. Now, this one is another deck that I use a lot. This is the Barbieri Zodiac Oracle. Now, this one I use a lot. And yes, they all come with booklets. I have the booklets for all of my oracles, but I don't use them. I use this a lot for altar representation and spell representation. So let me break this down for you. It has 4 cards for the 4 primary elements earth, air, fire, and water. It has all 12 cards for each sign of the zodiac, and it has the planetary cards from Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, and if I'm not mistaken, I just want to make sure, let me just check real quick. Yeah, I got them all. And then it has the 2 cards for the sun and the moon. Now, I use these 4 right here. Let me get these spread on the screen. There you go. I use these 4 as a representation of the element that they're for in my rituals and on my altar when necessary, to help incorporate. Now, I basically do tiny house living, so I don't have a lot of space that I can dedicate for an altar. So I have a very small working altar space, and sometimes it's really hard to perform like one of the more intense rituals which have more things in it, to have all the elements represented and then the work that I'm wanting to do. And I found that using these cards doesn't take up as much space. I can place them where they're supposed to be, and I can even place stuff on top of them to kind of have those elements represented in the ritual and on my altar without taking up a lot of space. Then you have, oh, there's so many. Then you have the zodiac cards, and they say what they are up here, and then they give like the little symbols here and here, and you have the cards numbered. Now this one is mine. I'm a Libra, so that's what it looks like. And this is the back of the cards, by the way. It's a really pretty moon. It's blue. Oh no! I've lost them. They have run away. Okay. Well, of course, it's Capricorn and an Aquarius. We're not going to read anything else into that. My father is a Capricorn, and one of my good friends is an Aquarius, so they're really good. But yeah. And then it has the planetary cards. And these are like very beautifully designed. Like that's Neptune. Check this out. There's Jupiter. Jupiter, like, bro, he's beautiful. I love the way that Jupiter looks. And then you Pluto, very, very icy. So yeah, so if I wanted to represent something on my altar that had to do with certain aspects of astrology, I would pull, for example, we'll use my boyfriend. He's a Sagittarius, so I'd pull the Sagittarius card. I would pull the Jupiter card because that's the ruling planet of Sagittarius. And then I would pull the fire card because that is the corresponding element. And then you have the sun and the moon. And to me, these 2 cards represent different things. Somebody who seems warmer, friendlier, personable, they seem to have warmer energy. So I'd pull the sun for them as a representation in a reading. People who are a little harder to read, a little more difficult to get to know, who seem to be cooler, I pull the moon for them. Other times, I don't even go by that. The moon is represented as female and the sun is represented as male. So I will pull them as a representation of the person who I am doing the reading for. So that is the Barbieri Oracle. Barbieri. I am so screwing up these names. And I'm really about to butcher some names. So the next deck that I use, and this one is the one that I use more for my personal stuff. This is the Witch's Wisdom Oracle. This is by Barbara Meiklejohn Free. I really hope that that's right, or Meiklejohn Free. And Flavia Kate Peters. This is the one that I use mostly for myself when I'm doing like a daily reading of something. So this is what the back of the cards look like. It's a beautiful starry pentacle. It's got a circle around it. So this is what I call a pentacle. A pentagram to me is just the star representation. And this is kind of what these cards look like. They're absolutely beautiful. Like this is the High Priest or High Priestess card for responsibility. Then you have like this one. This is hand fasting, and this is for union. These are the cards that I draw when I want to focus my intentions a little bit more. I use these cards with my manifestations. So like for example, like this morning, for example, this is the card that I drew. This is the moon, and it represents cycles. And I drew this card this morning, and so it actually pretty well related to my situation for the day overall, and it gave me a little bit of guidance. And that's how I use my oracle cards, is basically like a starting guidance for every day. Almost like I take 5 minutes for a little bitty devotional. I draw a card, I focus on it, think on it, and then I put my intentions into bringing about the aspects of whatever that card is that I've drawn. So that's what I use these for. And these are super, super great for that. But these are my personal use. I don't use those on readings. This is the Dark Goddess Oracle deck. It is by the same people. It's just illustrated by a different person. So these I use for tarot readings in conjunction with tarot readings. So the backs of the cards are kind of marble looking with this beautiful Triskelion. And then the cards themselves are very beautiful, like 100%. Like this is Ma'at. She's for judgment. She is an Egyptian goddess that weighs the heart against the feather of truth. And then here, let me get this upside down. Let me turn her around. Some of these are upside down, it's fine. This is Inanna. She is a Sumerian goddess for seduction. And she is beautiful, I'm telling you. She's strong energy to work with. And then we have Nemetonia, and we have Nuba, and we have Kali. I work with Hecate, and I work with Lilith. She stands for equality. She has a beautiful story if you look into it. I work with the Morrigan a lot. She is my patron. And I have a statue of her, and I have altar space dedicated to her. And I work with her a lot. And she stands for sovereignty. So I use the aspects, which are not necessarily well-known aspects, of these goddess energies or feminine energies. These Dark Goddess cards are so good to work with for me. I love working with them, the energy that I can pull with them, because when you pull the card, you can focus with that specific goddess energy, and that's how I work. And so it works really, really, really well for me. And I use it with my readings to get a feel for the situation that I'm about to read with my tarot cards, and it helps provide a little extra guidance when I do a tarot reading. So that's what I use my oracle decks for. You can follow me on Instagram at the Witch in the South, excuse me, and there's an underscore between each one, and I'll put the link below if you want to follow me. But until next time, blessed be witches, and I hope to see you soon.